Welcome everybody to today's Garden Gateway nutrition demonstration, part of a series of classes offered by Community Services Unlimited in support of local health and access to good food. So today we are going to go over how to make fire cider. Now, this might seem a little strange for this time of year because usually fire cider is something that I make, leading into the winter months, into the cold and kind of flu season. But actually, because of our lovely friend, Mr. COVID-19, I have been consistently making fire cider. And I think that given that we may all be out with each other together fairly soon with COVID not fully quite dealt with, I think it's a really good idea to have some fire cider handy. So the base ingredient for fire cider is a very good apple cider vinegar. So this is one of my favorites. This is the one we sell at the Village Marketplace as well. This is Bragg's. And this apple cider vinegar is very high quality. It's raw, it's unfiltered, and it comes with the mother. And we will talk about what that is in a moment. So what is apple cider vinegar? Why is it, such an important thing to use as opposed to using just ordinary vinegar? Well, first of all, it tastes much better, and it tastes much better because it is made with apples. Essentially, apple cider vinegar, or ACV as it's called often, is made by crushing and fermenting apples, which are then exposed to yeasts, which ferment the sugars in the apples into alcohol. The makers then expose the mixture to bacteria, which then ferments the alcohol into acetic acid. So the mother, and you can see the mother quite often floating around in those ACVs that come with the mother. But it looks like a sort of a strand of weird dark stuff just kind of floating around. You can often get it in bottles of kombucha as well. Those who make their own kombucha will know exactly what it looks like. But essentially, it is a strand of proteins and enzymes and good bacteria, right? So, so that's another reason why ACV is good for you, is better than using regular vinegar, because it has all these added elements in it that are good for you. It's called fire cider because it's hot. You take it and it lights a little fire in your belly. That's precisely why it has the name. And so anything hot. And so you see here, I have some fresh ginger. I have some really good garlic. I've got chilies of two kinds. I've got these amazing, wonderful green chilies, and I've also got my favorite chilies, cayenne pepper, red cayenne peppers. And you can also add horseradish. I don't have any today. Really anything that is hot and spicy. You could add onions if you wanted to. That gives heat. So you can see here that I have already peeled the ginger, and I just want to show you, some folks, when they peel ginger, they peel way too much of it. When you peel ginger, you want to be very careful that you really are just removing the peel and you're not removing a whole layer, because like many things that we peel when we consume them, some folks still like to peel potatoes, which you should do if they're not organic, but very often a lot of the nutrition is just underneath the skin. So, you really don't want to take too much away other than just the skin. And actually, if your ginger is very fresh, you can look at this beautiful ginger I have here that is really, really super fresh. Or if you grow it yourself, or you're able to get it from a local grower, then you can literally just scrub it, and you really don't even need to actually peel it in that way. Okay, that's the ginger. The garlic I have peeled. You can see here, I've literally just taken the peel off. Now, there is a way you can peel garlic by crushing it and taking the peel off. And if you wanted to do a crushed fire cider, and I'll talk about that in a minute, then you could totally do it that way. But I'm not doing that with us today. So I have just peeled my garlic. And you can see that what I've also done here to speed up the process for us is that I have sliced very neatly the garlic into these thin strips, literally just by, slicing it down there. Then maybe when it gets a little thick, slicing into the middle and just making some nice little neat strips like that of it. I've done the same thing. You can see over here with the ginger. Again, just, cutting into it. You can cut it into some nice slabs, and then you can just really quickly slice those into these little thin strips. Okay, so you've got those. The chilies I have chosen to cut into half today, length down the middle, not lengthwise, but down the middle. And you can see that what I've done with them, I already prepared my green chilies, but is just, they're already washed, by the way, everything is washed, and my hands are washed too, first rules of the kitchen. But I have just very carefully just broken off the ends of the chilies like that, and just discard those, and so you just have the whole chili. And I've just cut it into half, and I'm going to go ahead and do that with the rest of these red chilies. I like to use a variety of hot peppers, chilies, whatever you choose to call them, because I think that you get different flavors with them. These are the two that I happen to have today, but you can, of course, use jalapenos, you can use the little West Indian burnt peppers. Just be careful to have your mouth burned off when you do that. And depending on how hot you like things, then you vary the amount of chili. If you want it really super hot, then you can put more. If you like a milder taste, you can put less. The other thing, though, about fire cider that I've actually only recently, in the last few months, started to experiment with myself is that I like to use flavorings in it, herbal flavorings. I think it actually gives it a really nice kind of depth of taste instead of having just the heat. So what you see here is I have some sage that I've already washed and dried any excess moisture off. And similarly here, I have some fresh parsley that I have taken all the ends off. So everything is prepared. And usually when I make fire cider, I use a liter jar, or sometimes even a 2-liter jar. But today, just for the ease of, I don't want folks to feel like they have to go out and get anything special. So this is just an old honey jar that I have here. So we're just going to make a little jar of it today together. And what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to layer my ingredients into this honey jar. All right. And so I am choosing, like I mentioned to you guys earlier, I'm choosing to not crush my ingredients today. But I'm going to show you that this is actually a little bit of leftover from a batch of apple cider, a batch of fire cider that I made previously. And this is, you can also use turmeric, but this is turmeric and ginger and garlic that I actually crushed in my blender. And you can make fire cider this way. You can make it anything in between. I've made fire cider where I literally haven't sliced the garlic or the chilies at all. I've put them in. You can see in this one here that I'm in the process of finishing. The chilies are just in their whole. The garlic can remain whole, and some of the other things you do have to cut up, but you can have big pieces. You can have anything from there all the way down to really crushing it up. It's really up to you the kind of thing you want. And I'll talk, a little bit about the pros and cons of either. But here we go. Let's just keep on layering. So I've got a nice little layer of ginger there, and then I'm going to add a layer of chili, right? And then on top of that, I'm going to put some garlic. And then I'm going to put a couple leaves of this beautiful sage that smells amazing even as I touch it. And then I'm going to put some red chilies, right? And then I'm going to put some more ginger. I think you all get the idea, right? It's not rocket science. And you know, all over again. So again, some more green chilies. Again, some more garlic into there. Okay. Again, some more red, some cayenne peppers. And then I'm going to finish with a few leaves of this marvelous parsley, which was just picked actually. All right, now I'm going to give my apple cider vinegar a shake, because you will notice that when the apple cider vinegar is good, it's the real stuff and it's live and living, then the solids settle down to the bottom. So you want to give it a little mix before you use it so that everything's nicely distributed. And then you simply just pour the vinegar until all the ingredients in this jar are fully covered. And that's the thing, everything should be well covered. And what you can do is use a knife and poke it all under, make sure it's all well in there. So you can see that if you were going to make a litre jar or a 2 litre jar, you would need a fair amount of these items, right, to really get a full jar. Right, there you go. So that's it. That's the simplest kind of way to prepare this. And now if I was making it this way, I would literally have taken the ingredients I want, ground them all up, put them into a jar. So the jar was, about 2/3 full, right? And then poured the apple cider vinegar on top until all the ingredients were covered. Then what you're going to do, once you've got everything into the jar like this, then what you want to do is cover it, but you do not want to use the metal top, because it is vinegar, and vinegar will interact with metal and create rust and not very pleasant things that you don't want in your beautifully prepared fire cider. So you can get either a nice pretty piece of muslin or cheesecloth or something and put that over the jar, or you can keep it real simple, as what I do, and put a folded kitchen towel, paper towel, a clean one, over the jar, and just put a rubber band around it, right? So that you've got a nice top on it. And then you want to put that away into a space that doesn't have direct sunlight on it, a cupboard or a shelf, that doesn't have a ton of light shining on it, and you want to leave it for about 4 weeks. And then when you go back to it, the liquid will be completely infused with the flavors of all these wonderful things that you've put in there, right? Now, what's the difference between doing it this way with all these beautiful, pretty large pieces of stuff, and doing it this way with this equally lovely mixture of things that you've ground, right? And again, they don't have to be ground this small. They don't have to be this big. They can be anything in between. Many folks I know like to just chop everything up and layer it that way and pack it tightly into a jar. The difference is that when you do it the way we've just done it, you will end up with pieces of ginger and garlic and chilies and bits of herbs, whatever you've used, like this. Once the vinegar itself is used, you'll end up with this stuff. And I like that, because I actually like to use these things. I like to eat on them. I like to just have them on the side of my plate with any meal. I love to use them in sandwiches. They add this amazing touch. And before we leave today, I'm going to show you what else I like to do with them. That's very, very simple. And so that's how I like to do it, just because it's the least amount of work. It looks pretty on the shelf. You get to use the vinegar, and then you get to eat on the remains. Whereas when you do it this way, you know, what you then end up doing is straining. You know, you really need to, when you cut stuff down much smaller, then you're really going to have to strain the liquid out, use the liquid, and compost what's left of you know, the solids, right? So that's really the difference. And try it both ways. You know, try doing it different sizes. You'll find your speed. You'll find what you like. Just one other thing I want to mention, actually. So you'll see here that I've used this jam jar. And obviously, when you're using a jar like this, or even more so when you're using a big 1 liter jar, the neck is a lot wider. So it's a lot easier to get things into the jar, to get the stuff out of the jar afterwards, right? But also then, you know, you have to figure out ways of when you're using the vinegar, you're either using spoons and you don't really want to use metal, right? Of having to get the liquid out of it. I quite like using bottles like this. Now, this is an old olive oil bottle, you know, nothing, just regular virgin olive oil bought from the store, from the Village Marketplace store, of course. And this, you know, what I did with this was give it a good clean, let it dry out. And what I like about these are that you can take off the thing at the top, you can poke everything into it, pour on your vinegar, and then you have this great way of being able to pour the fire cider once it's ready, not just for consuming, you know, in a glass with some water, but also to be able to drizzle it onto salads, into soups, you know, onto rice, to use it in all kinds of ways. And it just makes it a lot easier to use the vinegar itself. What I'm going to do is show you what I like to do with the remains of this stuff. So this is just a very basic and inexpensive jar of olives. And, you know, you don't have to spend a lot of money on it. They're not the really expensive deli olives that you buy, but just simple olives. And then what I like to do is to take some of the pieces out of here and plop them in with the olives, you know, just roughly cut them up. I don't cut up the pieces that are already cut, but the chilies, I'll chop those up a little bit in there, and then add maybe some fresh herbs, right? So I've got that there, and then give it a good stir, pour a little olive oil on it, put it in the oven for a few minutes, and you've got a really delicious, yummy antipasta. So before we go, just a couple of parting words. ACV is an amazing thing to use to build into your life. But what you do not want to do is start drinking glassfuls of it on a daily basis, because like everything else that is good for you, too much of a good thing is not good for you, right? And particularly for folks who are diabetic or who are on medication, you want to be careful with the amount that you consume. And like most things that are good for you, it is better to take small amounts of it and to incorporate it into your daily life. So for example, to have it on salads, to put a spoonful of it onto your soup or your stew, right? And if you're really feeling groggy, or if you feel a cold coming on, then to maybe take a couple of tablespoonfuls with a little bit of warm water in the morning is really good for you. But you don't want to be drinking large glassfuls of it, and especially if you're a diabetic, because the very thing that makes ACV good for diabetics, the way that it is thought by scientists to really encourage levels of insulin to be, to be more regular in bodies, is the same. It's the same process where if you take too much, it can actually act the opposite way, and it can make you very ill. So so be careful how you consume it. But it's delicious. I use it every single day, and I've been using it for many, many, many years. So thank you so much for watching today, and I hope you join us next time on Garden Gateway.